So hello, good afternoon. I hope you guys are having great fun and having insightful discussion from the panelists and speakers so far. We'll try to add more value into already, such a wonderful day so far. So before we go forward, could you please all of you, uh, before this, complete the setup, maybe we can introduce each of us very few lines, and maybe you can also add a bit of how your daily work life looks like each day, keeping in mind customer experience, because that's the topic we are going to talk about.
Hello, everyone. This is Suhita here, and I'm a product strategist at Thoughtworks. I don't know if you've been here in the previous session where Tuhin and Sachin would have presented about Thoughtworks, right? So in case you don't know, Thoughtworks is into technology consulting, and we've been in the business for the last 30 years. You've heard Agile, you've heard Data Mesh, so we are the pioneers. I work with a service line called CXPD, which is Customer Experience, Product and Design. So what we do is we take our technology consulting muscle, we add strategy consulting and product and design capabilities to it, and then try to solve complex business problems for our customers. You would have seen some case studies, right? So that's pretty much what we do. And as a product strategist, I lead these initiatives. That's about me.
Suhita, yeah, please next on.
Yeah, hi everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Sumon Chandra, and I head the growth for Loco. Loco is a esports and streaming platform. It's a new age of entertainment. It is only for the gaming content, and we have started a business in 2018, and we have been basically growing on that particular category, where anyone is playing any esports game or any game, whether it's a mobile or desktop, they can stream at Loco, and anyone can watch who loves those games. Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon all. I'm Nishant. I head digital marketing at Narayana Health. Narayana Health is a 22-year-old legacy brand, and I'm trying to kind of shape up the future for Narayana Health from a digital perspective.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Ankit Mathur. I'm from ITC Foods business, and I look after operations and technology there. So being in foods, you guys would be interacting with various products which are there as a part of various verticals which are there, whether it is biscuits, snacks, noodles, pasta, dairy product, confectionery, chocolates. So across all these products, if you see, apart from looking at how you can enhance the experience of the consumer more in terms of increasing the sale, but at the same time, if you have to also look at how you can inculcate some of those requirements or needs which are there in the food products as well. So that is what we actually focus upon and look at how we can, say, enhance the entire product portfolio for the country and look at coming up with various innovatives and new products. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Poonam, Bhat. I lead the digital pillar for Vodafone Idea. As an organization, we are a telco moving towards being a techco. What does this mean is, traditionally, of course, telcos, have been in the country, but pivoting towards telco plus digital services, be it, let's say, music, movies, games, etc., is something that we are evolving into, so that we provide a holistic set of services for our consumers. And that's where a lot of focus for my role comes in terms of providing that absolute world-class experience for our consumers, be it on our consumer app, website, payment ecosystems, etc. Right? So essentially, my day entails thinking about product, providing best-in-class experience from a consumer standpoint, and of course, end-to-end delivering it and managing it overall for the digital ecosystem. Thanks.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. I'm Manish, Purwar, work at GE Healthcare. We are a medtech company, the global company, around 52,000 employees, 4 million install base, legacy of the healthcare business. I lead the lead to cash platform and process for GE Healthcare globally. And we are in the journey of the customer experience or omni-channel experience, if you would. My day goes on thinking about how we can help our users or our customer to get the right product with the right pricing at the right time delivered to the to the hospital or to the customers.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot for each of you. You may be a startup, you may be a SME, or you may be a large enterprise. You may be hearing a lot about the CX keyword. It could be different things for different people, but we will understand and get into more details. But irrespective of shape and size, we all understand that this is something we have to do, we must have to do. You may be already doing it in some way or other. For instance, how many people you have WhatsApp official business account? One. All right, congratulations. Two. Okay. All right. So how many of three? How many of you are already using any kind of automation? Any kind of automation? How many? Okay. All right. And there are traditional channels like SMS, email, and so many other ways to reach out to customer contact center softwares and toll-free numbers and whatnot. But I'm sure you may be like me as a businessman, realize that it still is not done yet fully. And of course, it's a journey, right? Evolving, the space is evolving, and there are so many things to be done. So let's understand from Suhita, right? What do you mean when you say transform your business or customer experience, right? For consumer and for your side. We keep talking about 360-degree experience. We talk, a lot of things. We at the same time understand there is human, there is a technology. It can do what it can do, but at the end of the day, everything human, we have to resolve. Everybody is consumer, everybody is producer in some way or other. So let's understand from our panelists, what is the customer experience, right? In very few words for you, for your business, because it could be different for you because of many aspects of providing end-to-end 100% happy customer experience. But sometimes right, that this needs to be done, but it's hard to be done unless it is done, right? So from that background, let's understand what exactly for you, for each of you, the customer experience is, and what exactly challenges you may be facing, what you're doing as a position that you handle or supported by the backend teams.
Yeah, that's a long question.
Questions, right? Yeah. So we will break it out.
I'll try to pick up bits from that. So we've been talking about use cases on customer experience from morning, right? But probably I'll take a step back, and being a consumer myself, being a customer myself, what is it that I would expect from a brand, right? So last Friday I was at a restaurant, and there was this huge crowd around, and I had to, somehow get in, and there was this book kept there. So a lot of people were waiting, and there was no person there. It was an unmanned book with a pen. So I had to put in my number, and I had to wait for somebody to come in and tell me what my slot was. And this is a restaurant which actually has an online presence. When you actually get a seat, you have to scan your QR code and then look at the menu. So I was thinking, how difficult would it be to kind of maybe make a reservation system or something, or some kiosk or somewhere where they can tell me this is your slot, you can come back after this time, right? So that is customer experience to me. Creating those signature moments in my life even before I start interacting with the brand, and so that I really want to go back in memory and relive those moments, right? Now coming back to business scenarios, right? When clients come to us for engagement projects, the narrative is very different. Sometimes it's as simple as, oh, we have acquired something in GCP cloud, we would want to migrate into AWS. So how do we build in, or how do we weave in the customer perspective in such scenarios, right? So we get into those engagements. When we try to look at the problem statement, we see that there is a lot of assumption built into the model. And the way we try to de-risk those assumptions is by doing something called user research, customer research. So we try to get hold of these customers, try to understand who they are, what they do in their daily life, and how this solution or this product is actually fitting into their jobs, right? And then from there, we try to derive value propositions. So for example, this client that I was working with, we found that during user research, our biggest competitor was Excel spreadsheet. Like how we say Netflix, the biggest competitor is sleep, right? So for us, the biggest competitor was Excel. Whatever visualizations you bring forth, whatever tooling you do, people will still, go and pull out that data, and they will use their own Excel and then try to build models on it. So we try to solve that problem using data-driven decisions. Now we have an Excel that we give to the customer where they can do all of these things with ease, right? With maybe a click of a button. So that's customer experience to us, and we have a lot of use case. I can keep talking, but I will let the other panelists also answer.
Sure.
One more point that I would want to add is, although all of us here, we understand there is a lot of relevance on customer experience, but how many of our businesses are actually able to reap that benefit, right? We've done HBR has done a survey. It's out there in the Thoughtworks desk. The results are 94% of people who believe that customer experience is paramount to their business, but less than 10% is actually able to, reap that benefit. So although we discuss a lot, there is a gap there. There is a belief behavior gap, the way we call it. So it will be good to understand from the panelists also, and what are the challenges that they've been seeing when they embark on this journey. I'll stop with that.
Thank you, Suhita. Chandra, so it's like a very, a new segment that you are venturing into, right? So how you see this for your customers?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a kind of a new age of entertainment, right? We all watch cricket, right? I'm sure everyone can correlate on our age bracket, right? But we are actually working on a different category where we deal with below 19 kind of TG, where they have like tons of time in their hand, but they don't have money. And that is where we utilize their time.
We would like our customer to have an experience where they can start from one channel, like starting from the website to do the research, and then submit a get an inquiry done, and then somebody in this inside sales guys can pick it up, provide specialized information, and then the customer can go and book the order somewhere in the e-commerce, right? And in that all process, right, and a company like us who has the legacy of years and acquisition and so forth, if you look at in this process, our customer and users are looking at three things. They want all this to be very simple, all this to be accurate, whether they go with one channel to the another channel, and it should be repeatable. If I come buy X product to buy product, should be the same, right? That's what. To achieve this, right, it looks very simple. To achieve that, we need to get a lot of foundational thing right. You need to get your data fabric right. You got to get your, the commercial backbone, the service backbone, the supply chain backbone, right. So that's where we are in the journey. At the same time, we are also looking at from the front line, digital experience standpoint, what all the use cases we can continue to add, to provide a better experience to the customer.
Wonderful. It's such a lovely and vast topic. We can continue to do this whole day maybe, but I think Charmaine has already rang the bell, so we have to conclude. Maybe we can open the questions if you have any. Yeah. Mike, please. There we go.
First of all, thanks. Thanks for the insights, and it was pleasant to hear all of the sectors. I have questions. I noted a lot of questions for but that will be taking a lot of time. But I'll just ask one question to Ankit. So, we are talking about the most of the things related to the consumer forum, into the foods and other journeys. So you have mentioned about the digital and physical form on the when it is. So I have a question on that, which is the most effective for the consumer journey on the digital platform or the physical platform? And coming to another one, the second part of that is we used to maximum we use the intermediary platform for this kind of food and to order all those things. So how to get the things like that personalized experience on those intermediary platforms? So how those data is getting segregated on that digital and the physical form? So if you can address on this.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks. I think that's a very wonderful question for any, I think especially a company which is dealing in both the spheres one. And I think lots of them across industries facing through the channel, because This is how the growth is happening in the digital world. Because erstwhile, if you look at each one have a physical store, and now everyone is looking at how they can become digital. Leave aside the companies who are digital first. They're only starting as a digital. For them, the equation is completely different. Okay. Having said that, it depends upon, say for example, I'll tell you a complete spectrum, in the sense, if it is a first time experience about a product, or any product for that matter, right? So therefore, if you look at your physical interaction, makes a lot of sense, right? In the sense, you would want to understand the product, you will want to understand its specification, quality, characteristics, right? And after a period of time, and I also relate to in what stage we are into, right? And after a period of time, you get used to that, right? You understand this is the product, you trust it, you believe its quality, specification, then automatically it comes to a situation where you just see it on a digital site and you just order, right? That's how the journey evolves, right? Because one example which was there, I think some 7-8 years back, when say all these say products, specifically shoes for that matter, used to come digitally. People have a lot of say apprehensions that shoes for that matter, I used to go to a store, fit it out and then see whether it is matching my requirements or not. But if you see now, right, with all these companies and a lot of people from these fashion industry or from these apparel companies are here, they will talk about they are doing, I think, much more sale than the physical store now. Right? So now that's how the choices are evolving, right? Having said that, if you see in the beginning, I also talked about a differentiation between the erstwhile era and a digital era. But having said that, if you look at all the Gen Z and the new age people who are evolving, they are not so much bothered about the physical experience per se, right? They are more in the digital age. They will order it, right? They will look at the product, whether it is consumable or any other product, and they have those choices to return it back. And that's why people on digital app are having a very hard time. If you look at any of the say company, whether it is Amazon, Flipkart, or anyone, to deal with those return policies and entire say you can say a complete industry operating out of that. Right, but that is all coming out of the choices of individuals. So that's what I wanted to share about the overall perspective on that.
Yeah, coming to that also, like I think when we are talking about the like tier 1 cities, that majorly like kind of Bangalore, Mumbai, see these places, it's the digital era is booming. When we are talking about the tier 3, tier 4 cities where the physical stores are more convenient than the digital one. So is that the segmentations you will align with that key? Suppose in the tier 3 and tier 4, we have a target audience on the physical stores more rather than the digital one. So this is the segmentations coming into the tier 1 when we are talking about the digital era is booming in this. So these two segmentations is still like kind of the one part where we have to be like kind of boom in this sense. So yeah.
More I would say the answer doesn't lies in the choices which company is making. It's more about what kind of experience you have in these say cities for that matter, whether it is urban or rural for that matter, right? Yeah. If you talk about some of the tier 3 cities which are there, where if you see the population itself believes more on that physical engagement largely, right? Exactly. And also lot of things are different. Imagine a city like Bangalore versus any other city, tier 3 city for that matter, right? The distances are very, very high, right? If you see the experience is completely different. You take a lot of time in traveling, commuting. Versus say if you look at a tier 3 city, people know back of their hand where the store is located. And they take hardly, say for example, very less amount of time than for any other individual to search it out, right? One. Second, probably they have their own convenience in that trust manner. Yeah. So what I would meaning to say is it's not about the choices which we are making, it's more about how the market is evolving. So more and more the market will shift from physical to digital. That's why this transition will be made by, I think, most of the companies. Exactly. That's a way to look at it actually.
Thanks, Ankit. This is really insightful. Thank you.
There. Charmaine? Somebody.
Thank you. Hi, this is Kirtana. My question is to Suhita. With the respect to IT services, right, or any consulting, a lot of times the products that we deliver are digital, but the mode of delivery as well as the mode of getting customer feedback have usually been physical, right? There have been client success managers that go speak to the clients to get feedback. So with respect to that space, have you experimented with any ways to collect feedback digitally from clients, and have you seen any success?
Like you rightly said, we are all sales driven, right? So the most common group of people who get to talk to the customer is always the sales team. So the first data that we collect is from these sales conversations, but as being a product manager, as being a product strategist, we try to, fit in across the customer's journey, we try to collect certain analytics. So there are tools like, I'm sure you'll be aware of Google Analytics and Full Story, which not only give you qualitative data, but also quantitative data, which you can refer back and what is the journey that the customer took. That's one aspect. The other tooling that we've trying out in one of our client engagement is trying to place certain feedback mechanisms within your journey, within your digital journey. Like if customer has a problem, can they interact with the product team, right? So such mechanisms we are trying, but yeah, it's always a trial and error thing that we try. Mainly for products, yeah, right. One thing that I would want to add that probably was part of your question was, when we talk about having these cohesive omni-channel experiences, right? We talk about having a customer journey drafted and all that. But what we miss out is looking at the data, right? So what we are actually experimenting is, coming out with data-fied customer journeys. Do you have the data at each touch point to cater to your customer? If you don't have, how do you get it? And when you have the data, what is the opportunity that you can solve for? So that's something we are experimenting, but it's still in play.
Also, if I can add what you asked, it is very, very hard and expensive to go and collect the feedback from one-to-one mode. So if system can, do that job for you, that makes your life easy, and also you can have a sampling done, talking to person one-to-one, to understand, 100-feet view about the product or services that you have launched. Because irrespective of this, my personal opinion, no matter what digital and what, other, ways of reaching out to people, non-physical, but physical is physical, right? Whether it's a study or, food, or maybe, delivering food online, having food dine-in, very different. Doctor online, doctor sitting in front of you eyes, with that confidence, very different. Everything is different. It's just that it fits where it fits, right? And where it is fitting, it is booming, right? And it will boom, or we will come back to maybe someday the old ways. I don't know, but businesses are doing what they think should be doing to ensure that they are in the long run, and consumers are also experimenting with all new thousands of options available, cheaper, better, and they are making also sweat hard, at the business side, because they have to ensure that they are competitive, they are providing quality of service or product in budget and any place in the planet. So it's win-win for everybody, and the winner eventually will rise from the challenges they are facing today.
I would just like to add one more part to what you were saying. See, if you look at from a product research point of view, right? Many times we look at interacting with consumer, gaining some insights, understanding them better. There, if you look at it, the physical interaction is much more important, because it's about the product. While they can consume and give you feedback, but what is more important, to understand their body language, also to understand their expression, right? So that is very, very extremely important for people to judge. That is point number one. Second point, which is there, based on their experiences and interaction, the people or research team is able to dive deep into the subject, because that part sometimes gets hindered, right? So you can further get into their interaction and discussion and understand as to what is it in the product or the taste or flavor, sensorial, anything, right? Which is actually making it very, very exciting for them, right? So then what I meant was specifically, if you look at from a product point of view, in order to get a comprehensive feedback, and I think for many of the, like what I think it fits beautifully in this entire journey, and it is very, very purpose driven. I think many times what we see is people forget that element and then try to look at as to how you can, in a way, try to leverage digital. Probably it sometimes work, but most of the time it doesn't work. So look at in the way, if say someone is looking at some of the personalized recommendation, how your digital engine can actually support. Looking at various databases, looking at various historical background, looking at the choices which the consumer has made over a period of time, and then accordingly look at what are the product and services, largely I'm saying from a FMCG point of view, right? What are the recommendations which could come up? Second point which is important is to look at as to how you can provide those kinds of support to the consumer. Because nowadays, if you look at mainly in the FMCG or foods industry, there are a lot of choices which are there, as well as there are a lot of restrictions which people have come up with, looking at their own diet, looking at the kind of nutritional choices which people are making. So therefore, how you can ensure that people get that understanding right, because that's, I think, one of the important element going forward, based on their individual preferences, how the food product can meet their requirement. Third element, which is also very, very important, what we focus upon is to have a purposeful omni-channel experience, because many times nowadays, if you look at, you start from a website, get into a mobile app, and then probably you would be walking in a modern trade store to look at the product, right? So it becomes extremely challenging for especially players like us in FMCG to look at how the person can get the same experience, or you can say seamless experience across. Right? If it is not the same, and if the product is not there in any of the channel, that's a dissonance for him. And in case, say for example, the consumer moves on from one product to another, maybe in later on his choices would be completely different. I think those are some of the factors which we focus upon, and then say how we can ensure the person would have got a very enriching experience looking at some of these food products. And once I think the person become committed to your product, right, and therefore he makes those choices, and then it becomes a very, very, you can say, automated community, that every day in the morning, based on my overall sequence of event, I consume these products, and it becomes a normal standard. So that's what is more important, that how do you look at those, providing those kind of experience, and at the same time looking at the kind of product offering which is there, which can create those memorable instances in consumer mind. That's what we aim for.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. And when you mention omni-channel unified customer engagement, kind of experience. So that is what I had to think a lot when I was building Tubelight Communication Next product, right? And we give a lot of thought about how we can actually get this information in one place. So you're traveling, you're taking cab, you're taking flight, you're eating via Swiggy, Zomatos, or you may be ordering via Flipkart, Mintras, and all these places. So in a way, that this information about customer preferences is there somewhere punched, right? But maybe you don't know how to get that. Only then you will be able to tell your customer, hey, you may be looking out for this, but I have something better. Can you look at this? And you can get better sales numbers. Maybe you can get better customer experience, because you are telling, I keep giving this example a lot of time. For instance, if you're taking a cab, and it's not very shiny day, 2 a.m., a lady going to airport, and the traffic is not there, and cab is not moving for some reason, right? And Ola simply sends you a message, are you fine? Everything is all right. So that kind of experience I call it's adding value to your life. If I'm looking out for a purchase and I am, banging my head because I'm not able to find the right, same piece that I saw in Times of India newspaper today morning, and I end up spending hours. And then if somebody can help me, where I can go and get the same kind of, thing. So there was a time we used to go and give the list of grocery to our fathers, and they used to go to Kirana stores. Then you have websites, then you have apps, then you have automated apps. Now you have conversational commerce, people say. So from there to now, thanks to telcos also to make this happen, right? Everybody has great handset, cheaper, better data, and things are moving. Even people who are not making money, but they are now making money with the time that they have, some way or other. So now coming to Poonam, right? How you see this whole evaluation and telcos making making it more acceptable, reachable, and better.
Yeah, two parts to this, right? One, how we as telco do this and how we can enable other organizations to kind of drive their own businesses, because we are the underlying, let's say, ecosystem that fuels everybody else. Let me take the first one where the challenge that we as an organization had. The challenge for telcos is that I mean, everybody here has a phone. I'm sure there are multiple SIMs that you have, etc. as well. But you go to the whether it's app or whether it's recharge or bill payment that you do it once a month or at certain frequency, which is not every day, right? Or you go to you come to us when you have some problem, whether your SIM is not working, you lost a SIM, or there's some problem when you are in international roaming, etc. So the only touch point that you typically have with your telco operator is when you want to recharge or pay your bill, which is maybe once a month, or when you genuinely have a problem, which is customer service. So the point is, it's a everyday usage product, and I'm talking about telco as a product, right? But it's always in the background. I mean, it's always in the background, and it's not a everyday engagement with your telco provider. So the challenge for us was, how do we engage with the consumers on a day in, day out basis, and truly, get them to come to us as a need, not just as, a problem that they want to solve or a bill that they have to pay, right? So that's where we said, this is our problem statement, that we don't engage with our, our users are not our daily active users. That was our problem statement, right? They were only monthly active users once a month. So how to make them daily engaged with us? That's where we said we need to kind of pivot into the additional services, whether it's music, movies, games, etc., like I was talking about, because these are services that you would like to consume every day. You might not watch a movie every day, but you might listen to certain songs every day. You might if you're a habitual gamer, you might want to play certain games, right? So there are certain, let's say, services that people like to use every day. And that was the challenge that we wanted to solve, and say, let's go into those services and get our users to be our daily users and not just monthly users. So we have actually done that, and in terms of tie-up, etc., we have done that, digital partnerships. But then the problems after that is, how does your consumer know that you're not just a telco, you're a telco plus plus or a techco, right? Because I'm sure if I ask the room, a lot of people might not even know that we have these services, right? So then the challenge was to inform the consumer that these are the services that I provide beyond just being a telco provider. So that's where a lot of campaigns, be it SMS, email, nudge marketing, etc., that we are working on in terms of actually, pushing that information to your consumer that this is what you have available. Let's say if there's a new movie release, you inform them that there's a new movie that's come up. Would you like to watch? When RRR came up, that's what we did, right? So that's, let's say, approach number one in terms of trying to give your consumer, exposure to what you have on the table. Once they get visibility of what you have on the table, then they come to your assets, be it your different digital channels, right? Then the point of experience truly comes in. When they come to your digital channel, are they getting best in class experience? Because if they come to your app, they see the app is glitchy, not working, then either it's free and hence like Jio Cinema, they still go there, or it's basically then they shut down, right? So how do you truly give that experience at that point in time when the consumer comes to you first time, right? So get it first time right. That's point number 2. Then the point number 3 is, let's say you give them best in class experience as well, but let's say you are a music lover and I kind of show games to you. You're like, okay, this is something that I don't truly enjoy every day. I'll turn off, right? So it's also about, how do I know you as a consumer? The point you're making in terms of truly knowing the consumer and actually giving them what they're looking for. Today's consumer is quite picky and demanding, right? They know who they are, And that's what they're looking for from any organization that they engage with. So it's about knowing the digital persona and actually giving them their interests, their focus areas, and even if you have a plethora of services, doing it in a targeted manner in terms of who the consumer is. That's where the experience comes for us in terms of knowing you as a digital persona and actually giving services that are relevant for that consumer, right? So that's what we're doing from our side. Now the other part of it is like in terms of the underlying telco ecosystem. Now I think there are two flavors to it. One is, like I said, we are doing these partnerships where we work with different players, right? Be it gaming, be it music, etc. And there we are tying up with different organizations to actually work hand in hand and give that proposition to our consumers, because it's a large base of consumers at the end of the day. The other point is actually elevating the network and the ecosystem itself, because data consumption in India is truly, it's top across the world, right? So obviously now with 5G coming in, that's where we are pivoting towards saying, how can we truly enable something like gaming in terms of truly, heavy gaming industry. So 4G today is honestly good for most use cases. It's not that, we don't have a good ecosystem. It's just about, where your consumer is, how much availability do they have, and how smart your own asset in terms of whether it's app or website is to actually enable a good experience, point number one. Point number two is, we can still elevate it further. That's where the next 5G experience comes in, which is something that we are working on. So I think it's both. It's one, us internal, two, enabling the ecosystem externally.
Right. Well, thanks a lot for the deeper insights on the telco side, and I think everybody will agree that it has to do a lot more important and serious role in days to come. Manish, now I see you also have some relevant experience in terms of seeing these things behind the scene, right? So there are people, account managers, sales managers, right, and somebody asking them questions, and they have to look back into the store and find the right answer back to them. So when wrong KOT printed in the kitchen, right, and it gets delivered wrongly, what exactly happens behind the scene? If you can throw some light.
Sure. So as you rightly said, I come from the B2B background, like MedTech company. We have we have spread across the globe, right? And if we look at when the experience we talk about, right? Today, our customer reaches out to the organization or companies in multiple manners, multiple ways, because of digital first approach, right? It's not that earlier they used to reach out to just one set of people, the call center, and you forget everything. But today, they start engaging with the companies or organizations, starting from marketing campaign to the email campaign to the chatbot to website to inside sales guys to say frontline sales type to supply chain, and getting the service engineer to install the equipment, right? Getting it done. In this all process, if you look at, a lot of companies have started working on digital first approach, the omni-channel approach, and as Sunita said, very few companies are able to really build a true unified omni-channel experience, right? And that's where we are focusing on that, hey, how we can make sure that we build a cross-functional ecosystem to involve everybody who touches the customer into the ecosystem to really build one, the customer, right? That's one piece we are focusing on. We are also in the journey of omni-channel experience where we...
And we, initially Loco was started with a trivia game where we used to basically have games and we used to distribute some cash, right? And there was 3 games in a day and we used to distribute cash, and that is how the game used to work. And lakhs of people used to come to get those money, right? Whatever, 10 rupees, 50 rupees, whatever it is. Now, when we pivoted the business from trivia to an entertainment category where it's a gaming content, we have seen in almost 90 to 100% people actually gone, just because we can't basically hold those users if we don't give them money. It is kind of a never ending. So we realized late that how can build a sustainable business on an entertainment category where we can show original content and as true content on a live basis, right? The game is happening live. So there are a lot of challenges because our user doesn't sit out of urban cities. They are from a small town in Rajasthan, small town in UP or West Bengal, Bihar. So it's kind of a challenge for us in terms of customer acquisition also, because we can't directly work with a programmatic platform and get those users, because as you know that most of the programmatic platforms are very strong at urban cities to get user from one affinity to another affinity. But when it comes to actual user from tier 4, tier 5 cities, those bucket of users, that's where the challenges comes. And then we have tried to solve with Google and Facebook in some extent, but we have actually done it on a data-driven way. So on the onboarding journey, we have like different kind of user like persona we create. For example, a user downloaded Loco app. Initially, they have to basically sign up, whether from a social login or a mobile number. Then they have to basically choose the category, whether let's say Minecraft, Free Fire, PUBG, GTA, Valorant, CSGO, whatever games they like. And then they have to choose basically the streamer, let's say Soul, Mavi or Dynamo, whichever they like. For example, I'm sure all of you guys know Cadminati on those kind of names, right? They're widely popular. Now, basically we are just like how we onboard, we have seen for Spotify or other apps, right? They basically try to take the data from the user itself and to get the feeds appear. Similarly, we also have the kind of process where we onboard the user with taking some data in the backend and we showcase the feed. So now, basically, whenever a streamer is going live, they have certain followers, automatically the notification goes for those particular streamer who goes live on the platform. So basically, we have solved on a technical way, sending notification, which are basically very much cost-effective way, as all of us know. We have also done the kind of ad scheduling model. Whenever our streamer is going at midnight or at a particular time, that ad will go basically on Facebook and Instagram.
I would like to understand. So there are streaming platforms, right? You can even do that on LinkedIn, on Facebook as well, even YouTube as well. There are different companies just doing that. Now, how this is different in this case, and second, like you mentioned, when you are a streaming company, bandwidth is very, very, very important resource for you, right? So I'm sure you may be facing challenges when the streaming is not going as per that quality that people are expecting. So if you can just very quickly before we move on to the next.
Absolutely. Yeah, means like, see, there are different technical aspects that we have solved because it's kind of a free platform, right? We don't charge a single rupee from the users. As I mentioned in the beginning, our user doesn't have money, but they have time. So now, money. Yeah, time is money. Yeah, right. Okay. So now we have basically customized based on the user data, because most of our users watch the content from a data, not from Wi-Fi, unlike the urban users, right? So now we have optimized the tech such a way that if they want to watch 144 to 240 to let's say 520 to 1080, we can basically customize based on the data speed of the mobile device. And also like it's kind of a system that we have built. Top of that, there are live, let's say 2 lakh users or 2.5 lakh users watching one single game. There are sustainability and stability, as you mentioned rightly, right? Those all are taken care over time. We have built more inside level product. Like, for example, everyone like reels and shorts and all, right? So we have built clips just to give them more Free Fire content or Minecraft content. So basically, we talk with users every day, at least the sample of users like 10 to 20, and we try to understand them what exactly they are looking for. We build the products that way.
All right.
I'll pass it to the next.
All right. Let's move on to the Nishant. So I mean, definitely challenges are very, very different when it comes to online platform, and of course, if you are operating in very, very niche market, right, like streaming. But hospitals, right, for instance, restaurants, for instance, you know pretty much that there will be not a single day you're going to have a traffic like IPL on Jio Cinema. Right, so we will be coming back to Poonam, how as a network provider can help achieve what companies like Loco want them to be, and of course before we move forward, Nishant, your take. So the food and the medical facilities, right? They are everyday part of your life. I may be ordering my shoes once in a month, that's too often. Once in 3 months, let's say. But the food and the medical or maybe education, right? This is everyday part of your life. So that becomes very close to people availing them, and at the same time you have like seconds, not this way, seconds, right? to make or break the customer experience. Right. So how you manage this?
So I'll just take a step back. For me, customer experience starts at what the customer is searching for. What is his problem statement? Where does he discover me? How does he touch base with me? how do we onboard them, and how do we service them, followed by what is the post-service experience analysis. So, as you rightly said, in healthcare it's very different. It's, it'll be wrong to say that it's not challenging for everyone else, but the set of challenges here are very different, right? So, we get bombarded or say influx of a lot of people coming to us at various touch points. Now, how do we customize it? How do we script it out? How do we follow SOPs? And how do we do resolutions over there is where the key is. In healthcare, obviously, you'll never be able to kind of, just by talking to someone through a tweet or a WhatsApp or a call, you'll never be able to gauge what's the sanctity of which condition they are in. So you have to be very, very peculiar about what are the keywords or these key triggers that are part of these conversations, right? So for example, some days we get some tweets like, I'm standing here with this medical history, but this hospital is not letting us admission, right? So how do we help them out? And this is over a tweet where there's very less information being transpired, and you can't really tweet them back and say, okay, give me your number, I will call you back. So you have to be very, very kind of, be very peculiar on how you pick these things up, right? What is that warmth that you show, especially in our case, right? And sometimes there are issues where people are coming and just slamming us. And, it's a service-led industry, right? Everything comes back to that. So how do you readdress that? People will say, okay, I was charged wrong. People will say, the doctor was not nice. People will say, my treatment went wrong. How do you address that? That is very different from any rule book that you can ever have, because it's very agnostic to an anatomy of a body. And for everything you cannot have a SOP, right? For everything you cannot have a rule that sticks for all. So we take it as it comes to us, but our go-to mantra is that we try to be warm, we try to address, at least we try to touch base with them the soonest. That's what we kind of follow here at NH. We try to, if we get any influx, if we get any request from anywhere, we try to just acknowledge that first and tell them that yes, we are on to it. How it takes a journey or how it shapes up, it kind of, transpires to different units that we have across the country. There are operational challenges, there are operational teams there, and then there are nurses who have to be coordinated on this for as well. So it's pretty lengthy process that ways, but I think the only way to kind of, for us, at least in our industry, the standard is that we kind of just be warm, we address it. The point is that we just have to have first level of communication as soon as possible, so that the person on the other side is reassured that, okay, somebody has listened to me, somebody has acknowledged me.
I will reiterate, more often than not, whenever we complain about something, right, we just want somebody to listen. And if they are able to convey the message that they give shit, they understand, right? For instance, the restaurant story you just said, right? Or anything else in that, sense, we are all human, right? Somebody was telling in the prior, topic, and we all make mistake, right? But then acknowledging that mistake, that okay, I did this wrong and we are trying to make it better, and this is best I can do. I think mostly, in my experience, things get settled there, right? And then of course, what technologies and tools, and that is what sometimes people also pretty much talking about data-driven, transformation and data-driven. Once you can only react or make a attempt to solve a problem which can actually make a bigger issue in the future if you have the data right time, right, available at your desk. If this transaction is failed, if I'm Razorpay, for instance, right, if I can reach out before the customer gets panicked, right, maybe he may be thinking it's a scam or somebody has stolen my money. So now, okay, coming back to Ankit, how you see this thing in context of the brands like ITC and food?
Thanks, Bhanu. First and foremost, since you are talking about the food products, and I think what you mentioned is very, very relevant. That because if you look at all these food products, your interaction and the frequency is very, very high, right? So almost every other day you are making those choices, right? And within those split second of choices, whether depending upon the brand, depending upon the product, depending upon the experience, person decides whether he is going with this or not. So that's the biggest challenge, I would say, which is there with the foods industry. Before I continue, I would just like to understand within this hall, how many of you guys would have interacted with any of the ITC food products so far?
Everybody.
Okay.
That
great.
was easy one.
That's easy. That's the best show of hands. One of the things which I wanted to understand that all of you would have interacted, and one of the most important part is if you look at as a company, right? So we pay a lot of attention to the product quality, right? The superior quality of the product. And what I was wanting to talk about is that if you look at talking about the consumer experience piece, right? So you get a lot of data from various people and various geographies, various trend belts, various states, whatever data you get from the consumer. Idea is to look at as to how you can dissect it in a manner so that you can provide an offering which meets that requirement. And what I meant thereby is it's not a very easy job, right? You get data, loads of data, so you have to understand for this kind of product in different geographies how this has to be imagined, right? So we have a lot of our products which are there, which are different from region to region, right? Depending upon the preferences, taste, and other aspects, those products vary. And that's the biggest challenge as to how do you cater to that consumer requirement and the need, right? Other thing which I was interacting with some of the people when you're talking about consumer experience, right? From erstwhile, if you look at, we have a huge amount of experience in terms of looking at normal traditional store. Now, if you see, we are in a journey where it is becoming, everything is becoming digital, right? A lot of people, if you would have different kind of behaviors, whether it is looking at digital or if you look at a physical store, right? So one of the interaction which we were having is to look at if you have to map, while you might not have experience of the digital world, right? It's a journey, I would say, and for all of us, together it's a very big transition which is happening, right? Every other day you would see some evolution which is there, and of late, after a few months back, we saw ChatGPT being there, and I'm sure after some time there could be some other element which would come into play, right? More important is to look at, but the fundamentals of, say for example, these interactions remains the same. So look at how do you map the entire consumer journey, look at from awareness to advocacy, right? And therefore look at how, that's what we were looking at, is to how the digital element, Bhanu rightly mentioned, is for specific industry, say physical interaction is much more critical, versus while a lot of other industries are evolving to have a digital interaction with people. That's what. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question with regards to this omni-channel strategy, right? So when you're offering multiple platforms for the customers to interact with, how do you measure the affinity that a customer might have with regards to a particular channel? Is the affinity dependent on the profile of the customer, or is it dependent on the nature of the issue that the customer wants a resolution for, or a combination of both? Just wanted some perspective from the panel on this.
So, see, essentially, typically in our industry, what happens is that it's a very, very grave and a very, very hurdle sort of a placeholder, right? So, because we're a very big organization, you cannot straight away reach out to people. So, usually people tend to go to Twitter and they try to pinpoint things to you in an expectation that we will respond faster because it's in public domain. A lot of people also try to do it on Facebook, but it kind of gets unnoticed, because there's not a lot of chatter. It's a larger space to be in as well. We've had issues with it has happened on LinkedIn as well. But the idea, or I think the only instinct that a person has is that he wants to evoke a response from us. So Twitter, I think, is where more fire is always around. And that's why I said that, for us, a KPI is what is the first response time? How do we minimize it? Do we understand the grave scenario as well? What are they trying to say? Is it only for a recommendation, or is it for something for themselves, or is it for someone else that they're trying to recommend it to? And when you have multiple queries coming in every day, then you have to look at these all at a very granular level. You cannot miss out what they're trying to say, because you cannot expect everyone to fit in the right mode of English, the right mode of Hindi, the right mode of any other language. They'll mix anything, they'll try to type out anything, and they'll try to expect us to give a resolution. So it's very challenging from that perspective. But yes, I mean, you know, the idea is to look at all these tickets, all these responses one by one, and then understand. And what also kind of comes back, you know, even at a feedback level, while I respect what Ankit was saying, but for us, I think, or for me specifically, I think digital would be much better, because the future of feedback is becoming more predictive, right? So it won't be 10 questions that go out there. You know, it will also be, if one is unanswered, then can you sub-break it? Can you really kind of bring it more insightful at that level of interaction in itself, right? So it could be, say, for example, a question like, were you okay with the treatment cost? He says no. Then you can give brackets. You know, you want it at a 20% lesser, 20% higher, 50% lesser. And that is how you evolve in your product and your design and your system mechanisms as well. So, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So let me just add on a bit more. See, in telco also there is offline and there's online, because eventually there are, you know, you have the retailer ecosystem, you have our, let's say, V stores, etc., where the consumer walks in or does their recharge with the retailer, right? And in current economy, the significant offline world in addition to digital world. To the question of affinity, it's twofold. One, what the consumer wants in terms of their own comfort of, do they like walking into a retailer store, or do they like doing, let's say, a recharge online? And even in online, it could be a Paytm GPay, which is habitual, or it could be our own app, right? So there are options on the table. And second one is what we as an organization want to influence the customer behavior for. For us, it's a lot more cost effective if they do it digitally vis-a-vis if they do it in the retail store, right? So it's both in terms of the question you're saying, what do we look at? One, we look at in terms of where they are and what their affinities, which means you need to have those channels available. It might be retail outlet, it might be mini stores, it might be stores. So you give them those options, but inherently you try and push the behavior towards digital, because twofold. One is cost effectiveness, one is, let's say, from a time standpoint. You don't have to wait for that store to open from 9 to 8 in the night, etc. You can sit and, you know, do your recharges anytime, right? But there are always certain set of services you would want the consumer to walk in and do for various reasons. It might be to, you know, have the KYC forms filled. It might be to, let's say, know that there are certain activities that are done in person, etc., right? So that's why I say the affinity comes in from consumers' intent, but also from organizations' push towards a behavior, right? I mean, if you ask me, a GPay and PhonePe and Paytm's changed consumer behavior altogether, right? So it is possible to change that behavior as well. It's about how do you navigate, how do you incentivize them to change that behavior, and how do you give that convenience to make it happen. So I would say this is the twofold consideration when it comes to omni-channel strategy.
All right, you want to add quickly something? Because Charmaine is looking at me, you know. Okay.
No. So omni-channel, if we talk about, right, it really depends on what product, right, you would like to pursue, right? In B2B scenario, for an example, if I take the example of healthcare, probably the customer can go and do the research for MR machine on the online, right? We can capture some of the event which is happening through the website, but it's unlikely the customer will buy the product through the online, right? While the other handheld device, right, which are low ticket item, I'm sure customer would be willing to go and swipe the card on the online and buy it. So it really depends on what product, what business you are in, and what strategy you are going to adopt from the omni-channel standpoint.
Right. I mean, you just go for window shopping and you know where it is, the same stuff is getting, you know, on the cheaper price, and you go and buy from there. All right. So with this, we'll close. Thank you, Charmaine, once again. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you to all our panelists. Can we please have a huge round of applause for such a lovely panel?